I want to prove that you can go into a city unknown and in 5 days hit up a bunch of networking events, associations, and more, and prove that you can build a network out of it.
Welcome to Networking from Scratch.
I'm driving to Houston. I'm going to spend 5 days, build out a networking group just to prove that you can go into a city where nobody knows you and network and find a successful group of people that you can bring together and help grow your business. Before I get there, I am going to be spending time researching all the events I go. A lot of people, they seem to just network haphazardly. They hear about an event maybe and they just go, and they're not doing any pre-gaming, not doing any sort of research. I plan to change all that up, because what I really want to do is find the right events with the right people that set me up for the best chance of actually making this thing work. So what you're going to see from me is the research, the pregame, how I'm thinking through the events I'm going to attend. Because for me, if the people aren't selling business to business, meaning they aren't selling to companies as a whole, not the individuals in there, then the rooms aren't going to be good enough for me to build the type of networking group that I need to be. So I've brought together right now over 450 people, 30 chapters throughout North America that are focused on business to business sales. So to put that in perspective, most chambers, most networking organizations, most groups, they're focused on business to consumer, which means everybody in that room can sell each other. But for me, our members, most of the people that are sitting in the room with them, that are networking with them, can't become a client. See, our members tend to be solopreneurs, small businesses. They're running successful companies, but they're selling into multi-million dollar, type companies. So manufacturing companies, distribution companies, industrial companies, hospitality and healthcare groups. So when you're selling at that level, most networking honestly sucks. It's because you're walking into rooms where there's, realtors, financial advisors, mortgage people. They're all great people. They're just not selling at the level that most of our members are selling at. They're selling to individuals. And let's be honest, once I sell you a house, once I have your 401k, once I have you in a mutual fund, I don't need to really talk to you for the next 5, 10, maybe 15, 20 years. So in our world, we have to build deep relationships, ongoing, that are way more than what you see in most traditional transactional networking. I want to prove that I can drive into a city where I don't use my network, I don't ask for any favors, and I don't ask for any introductions, and prove that you can drive in, build out a network, create a networking group, and actually grow your business. There's no shortage of networking events in any major city you're going to go to. Just a quick Google search, or in this day and age, a Perplexity search, and you will find a ton of events. The problem is finding good events with the right people. See, B2B or business to business groups, there's not a lot of them out there. And oftentimes I've found in most cities and most areas that I've been in, I actually have to create those groups because I can't find them. So now I'm going to have to leverage all these other organizations to be able to find the few good people in each one of them that I can bring together and build out a networking group from. So I'm going to be looking at chambers. I'm going to be looking at the Conventions Visitors Bureau. I'm going to be looking at, Eventbrite, Meetup. I'm going to be looking at everywhere, but I'm going to try and avoid your kind of traditional networking groups. So I'm going to avoid like your BNIs. I'm going to avoid, your networking actions and those type of organizations that tend to be more B2C and more transactional in nature. So I'm looking for workshops. I'm looking for after hours. I'm looking for seminars. I'm looking for events where I know that there'll be a handful of people that either they haven't fully recognized that the room's the wrong room, or they are at the point where they're frustrated because they know it's the wrong room, but don't know where or how to find the alternative. That's where we're going to come into play. So my plan is to show you what I'm researching, how I'm researching, and the things I'm looking at, so that you can get an idea that if you want to do this on your own, what are the things you should be looking for and or researching and figuring out. I've always thought it was funny that people think networking is showing up, shaking hands, and leaving after collecting several business cards, and they think that that's going to produce results for them. And what I continue to just find amazing is I've done workshops where I've simply asked the room, how many of you have a stack of other people's business cards within arm's reach or close to you? And it's pretty funny to see how many people literally have all these business cards. And I'll ask them, how many of you guys have followed up with these people? Or how many of you guys have take the pile of cards and connected people that you met out at other events? And it's just proof that a lot of people don't have strategy around networking. So as I go to Houston, I want to prove that this idea of C3, where I walk people through, how do you take people who are the crowd, like the cards you have, the LinkedIn connections you don't know, all those people, how do you take them from being a person in the crowd to a connection to ultimately somebody who's championing you and your world? So this is what I'm really excited about focusing on as we head down towards Houston and getting this trip in play. And so the way I'm thinking about it is I'm not looking for an event. I'm trying to build out an entire week, breakfast, midday, lunch, dinner, happy hours, right? And it's all got to make sense. So, in doing this in 5 days, I really got to think about my energy and how I'm going to handle all this, because, I'm committing to 5 days of going to a place where I don't know anybody and then launching a networking group from it. So not only do I need to be able to work a room fast, and that's not pitching a room, that's understanding the dynamics of it and going around the room and finding the people that would make sense to invite to this networking group, and really connecting with people in a short amount of time. But that means I'm going to be on, for an entire day. So I've got to find ways to make sure that when I'm driving between events, that I'm thinking about how am I decompressing, how am I, conserving my energy. And then, even for me, is when I get to the happy hours, right? How do I can slow down the pace of things, enjoy the evening and all the way into the afternoons? How do I actually unwind and relax so I can hit the next day with the same amount of energy, the same amount of pace and time as we go into it? One thing that I did do is, I'm trying to do this without leveraging my network too much. Yeah, and one of the things I did do is I put out a map on LinkedIn to say, okay, here's how I'm looking at Houston, here's a layout. And I can tell you it was a really smart move because of the number of people told me that it was too ambitious. I was trying to cover too much of Houston. So now I've narrowed it down that I'm most likely going to hit the Northwest Corridor, which is kind of the Jersey City area of Houston, and find events there. That's really allowed me to narrow my focus down to specific events in that area. And what's fascinating is I'm starting to find a cool mix of workshops, seminars, kind of these other events coming together. And I'm leaning in toward more paid events simply because I think that is putting a barrier to entry. And the theory behind that is if they got to pay to be there, then it's going to be a little bit higher caliber room. Even after I build out this week, I'm going to scrutinize the hell out of it, because I know I'm just going to end up putting events on there that I didn't scrutinize enough. And there's a very fine line between over planning and making sure everything works. And I'm typically of the mind of let's make a decision and just run. So even when I get the schedule completely laid out, before I go, I will give it one more scrutiny, test, because not all rooms are equal. And so, and odds are that once I get into Houston, that I may find an event that as soon as I walk through the door, I realize I screwed up and this isn't the right event. And I'm going to have a game plan of what do I do to pivot in a moment to try and fill that gap. So that'll be interesting, whether I plug in maybe some online networking at that point, or what happens when it's the wrong room. So that's going to be fun to check out. I continue to find it is extremely hard to find good events. This will be a solution or a problem that I'm going to solve at a later date. But right now, I'm trying not to over filter, right? So I'm looking for every opportunity, every place, every workshop, everything that I can think of to find places that it makes sense to go to. And I found a couple places where people have tried to fix this problem, but now it's a matter of getting it all coalesced into a particular area. Because the things you have to do before you go networking anywhere is you need to do your actual research on the event. Need to research on the type of people who are going to be there, because you want to make sure it's not going to be a waste of time for you. Now, I promise that one of the events I pick as I go down to Houston is going to be absolutely horrendous, right? It's going to be just not the event that I thought it was going to be, but that's all part of the experience. So you guys can feel right along with me, the things that are working and the things that aren't working. And so that's why I continue to be fascinated by this, because this is going to be a hell of an experiment as we dive into, I don't need to be in all the rooms. I need to find the right rooms with the right people. So what I want everybody to see is this is what it takes to really build out a network. I really believe that anybody can go into a city that they don't know anybody and build a strong network and make it successful for them. And once again, it's not about being at all places. It's about building a realistic timeline and finding yourself in real conversations with people that can help you move the needle forward. And so I want the right rooms, the right people, the right atmosphere, and I want to document this entire process. I want you guys to see what I'm thinking as I'm driving to the events. Like, you're going to see like the head trash that I go through while overthink rooms. I mean, we've all had events where like, ooh, I'm going to the happy hour tonight. And then on the way there, you're like, I'm not going to that thing. So I want you to see all that and those interactions. I want you to see how I'm thinking through all of this, so that you can feel the realness of how I'm gonna tackle this thing. So I'm really, really fascinated by this. I think it's going to continue to be a lot of fun, and I'm stoked for this journey. So in the next video, I'm gonna walk you through the way I'm going to map out where I'm meeting people and going to bring them together and ultimately launch one of our Success Champion Networking B2B virtual networking groups out of. I'm doing this because for years I've taught this way to network, our different methodologies from C3 to the PAC methodology to the synergy triangle, and I want to show them all in real time, all being put into full play. So if you want to follow along in this journey, please make sure you like and subscribe below. It's going to be very, very interesting. I got a lot of things to learn this way, but my plan is to show you the good, the bad, the ugly, and all the things in between of what it's going to take to make this work. So I hope you got a ton of value out of this. And if you did, please do me a favor. Comment below with ideas, suggestions, input, things I should be thinking about. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this with a friend. I'm having fun with this. I hope you're learning along the way, and I'd love to meet you to understand how I can bring more value to your world.